Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today? I hope you're very well staying at home. I know it's tempting to go out, but please maintain social distancing. It's a few more weeks, but it will help. It really helps stop the spread of the virus. And today, with me in the studio, I have not one, but two wonderful guests. We have Vikas Gora, who's the Deputy Director, South India at Save the Children. And we have Miss Yukiko Koyama, the Senior Protection Officer, UNHCR India. So welcome, Yukiko and Vikas. How are you doing today, Yukiko?
Yeah, very well. Thank you very much, Elsa, for this opportunity.
Where are you logging in from?
I'm based in New Delhi, so I'm logging from the Delhi.
Great. And Vikas, where are you logging in from?
Hi, good morning. I'm logging in from Hyderabad.
Wonderful. Okay, great. So I am so pleased to have both of you here today. It's so important to talk about the role of children. And, since Save the Children works primarily on child rights, and you have partnered with Yukiko and UNHCR on a particular program, Everyone Counts. So we'll get into the program, but I wanted to ask you, Vikas, to begin with, telling us about the rights of children during a pandemic like this, COVID-19. And let's talk about vulnerable children. How do you reach out to them? How do you get them the help that they need?
I think during the COVID crisis, we have seen it. It's an unprecedented time and an experience which neither the adult nor the children have ever come across. So the most vulnerable children, as we know, are the tribes, the internally displaced, refugees, and children in street situations, and differently abled, and children with special needs. So many of them are completely caught off guard. And one of the key aspects which we as Save the Children also observe, that their rights are compromised in this scenario. Staying indoors for too long is not what a child ever dreams of. At the same time, currently they're forced to stay indoors, so that puts all their rights, compromised. One of the things which we also observed is that the number of cases, especially related to the calls that Childline is getting until April 10th, close to around more than 2 to 3 lakh calls they have got as a distress calls, reaching out for help, either the children or the adolescents, trying to find out what is the way out, maybe when is that they can come out of this pandemic scenario. Other kind of calls are primarily to do with the perpetrators of crime or child abuse, as well as children are in the same space. So that actually puts them in a very tight scenario that they're trying to reach out for help, but help many a time may not come in this time of crisis. So that's where they're completely caught up in a web of circumstances.
Yukiko, I wanted to ask you, when we talk about children, we often don't give them agency. And it was really refreshing to see the Prime Minister of Norway, for example, hold a press conference only for children. And that really shows how important it is to, acknowledge their existence, give them the agency, give them a platform to, raise their voices and their concerns. I wanted to ask you, as a protection officer at UNHCR, what is the role of leaders like in this particular pandemic to kind of calm the fears of children, to talk directly to them, give them that reassurance that yes, there's uncertainty, and they have been disrupted a lot with their education going online, and those without devices might not even have an education during this time. So please share, what do you think are the role of leaders in this point of time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you very much, Elsa. That is very good, interesting also questions. And even before that, also COVID crisis happened, also the UNHCR and also Save the Children and also other NGO partners also wanted to build the capacities and then also the resilience of the children. So we also encourage the children, like among the refugee children, have their own, like also the network, all the children, like also we supported the child clubs, children's club, and then also the Save Children also have that promotion of the child champion who can also lead and then also the build the capacity of the children in terms of their decision-making capacity. So this is also that important for us and also the leaders, and then also that agency, protection agencies like UNHCR, and then also that Save the Children to encourage that to promote the capacity of the children so that they can also address their issues also together with also the caregivers and then also the fellow children. And we should be in a position to support that.
Yukiko, during this time when we have a lockdown in place, and if a child is being abused or a child on the street needs care, how can we get that care? Especially when NGOs themselves are not allowed to step out. How can a child get that care? And what measures or what should the state and officials be doing in such a case to make sure that no child is left behind?
I think it's also really important that also we communicate with the children and how to reach out to us. Like before the COVID emergency started, we could have a more direct contact with the children. But now, due to the social distance and then also a lot of the regulations in terms of the movements restriction, we have to communicate. We are also communicate with the children over the telephone or the email. So that also it's really important for us to also ensure that we continue to work with the children and the children knows how to reach out to them. So for example, the Save the Children and the UNHCR we also produce a special information leaflet explaining how they can also reach out to us. And then also, we also know that some of the children who already at the risk of the child protection issues, also at risk of some of the possible violence. Also, we have been following up with them proactively to check whether they are doing okay or not. And then also we are closely working with the NGO partners and who are also have a good relationship with the child protection authorities so that we ensure that we don't leave that children behind in this crisis.
Vikas, I wanted to check with you. Are you seeing a spike, like we are seeing a spike in domestic violence? Are you seeing a spike in child sex abuse during this pandemic? And how is Save the Children reaching out to these vulnerable children?
Okay, we have observed, especially because Childline is one of the channel through which many children do call, and that's only those who have access to phone or who many a time go out of way using the services. Taking the phones from the neighbors or maybe desperately trying to reach out for as a relief call, and we have observed that the spike is definitely there. One, because if you look at the number of cases that have come, or the number of calls that have come to Childline does speak about the amount of the scenario in which the children are caught up. That's one. Second aspect is that there will be many cases which will go unnoticed because they do not have the access to really cry out for help. So that's what bothers. And the third aspect which we also observed is during this time, when the lockdown in many of these areas, especially poorer neighborhoods, are cramped. So the kind of spaces in which children and the adults are put up in, sometimes it is a forced scenario where they can't run away from their perpetrator of crime. And at the same time, when the call comes, it's important that like bodies such as the police as well as the SCPCR the CWC, they need to take into cognizance the seriousness of each of the call and address it immediately. Because if the lockdown still continues, and if those areas are in red zone, let's say for example, there's little or no outside interface to those areas. So especially when it comes to child abuse related cases, they need to be immediately addressed, be it in red zone or whatever zone these children are actually caught up. As Save the Children, we have been definitely working in close collaboration with all the child rights organizations, interagency networks. We are sharing notes. That's one. And a second aspect we are also looking at is through our channels of communication, especially through our village volunteers or community volunteers at the field level. We are spreading the information through audio, video messages continuously on how to actually work with their children in these kind of difficult times, because in these scenarios many a time the adult vents out the anger on child, or child becomes more like the soft target. So how do you take care of your children in this closed spaces is something which we are also spreading awareness. That's one of the key channel we are using it as of now.
Yukiko, can you share a little bit about your joint collaboration with Save the Children and UNHCR on Everyone Counts?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, Everybody Counts is the campaign, the global public awareness campaigns. That campaign aims to inspire everybody to help others. And everybody has a voice, everyone counts. Together we can make a difference. And Everyone Counts campaign has been globally used by UNHCR. And in order to bring together the various stakeholders, including the government authorities, civil society members, and business corporate sectors, academics, donors, volunteers, also refugees, and then also the host communities and so on. And now we are all experiencing the coronavirus outbreak globally, including India. And so also it is important for us to work together to combine our own strengths and contribute to create the comprehensive response to address the current challenge jointly. So, and we are in the COVID-19 response, but at the same time we see the challenge, but we have witnessed the great empathies and acts of the kindness and solidarity toward the marginalized people and vulnerable people. And so this Everyone Counts campaign has a very important messages to deliver. The one is everyone deserves to be protected from the virus. 2, everyone should be protected from discrimination. 3, everyone has a role to play in fighting the virus. So in India, UNHCR and Save the Children jointly launched the campaign on this Everyone Counts on 25th of April. And we will continue this campaign until the 20th of June. So this is approximately 2 months campaign we take. The 20th of June is the World Refugee Day, where we commemorate the refugees' resilience globally, including India. Using this Everyone Counts campaign, we'd like to reach out to as many people as possible, and we wanted to ask them to share their stories and discussions which are inspired by the acts of the kindness and solidarity. We would like to share the stories from the people who are doing their best to improve the people's lives, especially the lives of vulnerable and marginalized. And the campaign will use the various social media channels, and such as Facebook, Instagram, and also we share the stories, videos, and we have a conversation with experts and so on. So today's live chat is also the one of the very good examples. And so Elsa, we would like to really thank you for giving us this opportunity to be connected with many audiences. And Save the Children will be driving this campaign activities through the Facebook and Twitter, Instagram, and the UNHCR will use Facebook accounts. So we hope that kindness and solidarity shown through the Everyone Counts campaign will inspire that others and to do the same. And we hope more and more people to start their own initiative of the solidarity and kindness. If there are not much action taken yet among the community, the people also can start doing so. And then also people might think that their act of kindness or solidarity are very small. But when such acts of the solidarities are communicated widely through the campaign, which will have a huge and incredible impact on the more people and especially the people's lives. So Save the Children and the UNHCR wish to create a space in the social media platform to share such a good practices of solidarity and kindness with others. And also we wanted to do in the multiple languages as well. And we are currently facing challenges under the COVID-19, but we need to turn this into the real opportunity to do the right things and also for the future. So virus threatens everyone, and then everyone counts. Every one of us counts. So we all have a role to play, and we have all a voice to raise, and we can take action together. So every voice, every actions, however small, can make a difference. So we all have a positive part to play in fight against the coronavirus. So I said we wanted to use a social media platform to share the good stories. So I also wanted to share some of the good stories from UNHCR India side, which is also in line with the campaign message that everyone has a right, everybody can play a role in fighting virus. Many refugee community members also play the critical roles in sharing accurate information on the COVID-19 prevention response information, which is also in line with the government's and WHO guidelines. So refugee community members supported the translation of the messages into their different languages, and also they supported the dissemination of the information to their communities, refugee communities, and also some of the community members participate in the creation of the information materials such as videos, and also telling how to hand wash properly, how to keep the respiratory hygiene, how to keep a social distance, and so on. So we seen that the refugee community have been contributing to the prevention efforts. And then also another good story we could share is that refugee women in the different locations in India and also producing the reusable homemade facial masks. The mask will be distributed free of cost to the vulnerable people. And also in the local, the host community will benefit of that. And especially include the people with the specific needs, older people and people with a disability and so on. So UNHCR India produced a video to share such a good initiative of the refugee communities and refugee women. And we wanted to share that with the wider audiences. Also, we wanted to ask the audiences to check out our UNHCR India Facebook page. So we want the Everyone Counts campaign to resonate with many social media followers who will be able to share the posts or films or the possible story of the solidarity and kindness. And everybody has a role to play, and everyone can contribute to the solution. That is the background of the Everyone Counts campaign. Thank you.
Thank you, Yukiko, for that overview of Everyone Counts. And we've seen lots of examples during COVID-19 where people have shown empathy, kindness, stepping up at the local community level for their neighbors. Yesterday there was this man who was homeless, lying with an open wound somewhere in my locality, and somebody put it on Twitter. A friend of mine put it on Twitter. I went down, I tried to look for him, I couldn't find him, but she managed to get a ride, come to my suburb, and with some other activists, they managed to take him to the hospital, get his wound treated, and find a shelter for him. And really, that's what the crux of the campaign is, that no matter who you are, you shouldn't be alone, you matter, you count, and we can do that in small ways. I've also seen those videos by UNICEF and other UN agencies promoting hand washing, and it's been quite a rage at the start, but it went a long way in educating people on the right ways to maintain hygiene standards. I wanted to ask Vikas, Save the Children, and you're in particular managing the South India operations, or is it South Asia?
South India operations.
South India operations, which includes Orissa, right? And I wanted to check, like, how many so what's your base like, because how many children, there might be quite a lot of children. Can you give us some positive stories from your perspective on how this campaign has been engaging other organizations as well as children to participate, just so that others get an idea as to what are the small things that they can implement in their own communities. Sometimes you don't have to make the change at the city level or the state level, but if you can do it in your own home, if you can do it in your own community and get your friends to participate, that will go a long way in making that change occur.
Yeah, I think as Save the Children, our primary focus is child-centric development. So through children, we reach out to their parents and the larger community. And most of our awareness programs currently have been focused on hand wash and other personal hygiene aspects. So through them, through children, we are trying to reach out to the larger community. That's one of the key things. And we have a lot of child champions who basically are the change makers at the field level, who who are the voice of the rights of children. So through them, we are using an approach of peer-to-peer learning. So through children, we are reaching out to more children. And one of the aspects we also have observed is that they are very quick to adapt, very quick to learn. And some of the stories like which children talking about how there are special needs children in their same village which require who require attention, especially in the times of crisis. They identifying these children and actually telling our volunteers that they would require that extra ration in this time of crisis, something where we see there is a greater solidarity. The spirit of solidarity has been much stronger, as you rightly pointed out in one of the stories which you have shared. So that somewhere we saw that people are uniting a lot in this global pandemic. At the same time, at the local level, the child champions and the change makers, community level volunteers, these have been the people who actually are holding the fort. And some of the stories related to calling up, Childline and sharing that there is a case, a possibility of a child marriage that's going to take place. So stopping child marriage using channels such as Childline has been an incredible empowerment of children. And this is something which we see is the fruit which we are bearing because of our continuous interface with children in South. For more than 40 years we have been working, especially creating children's clubs, youth clubs. So these platforms have got activated, and these platforms have become more like the forums for facilitating change at the field level.
And how can people, participate in this campaign? I know you have something with Youth Ki Awaaz where anyone who has an amazing story of solidarity and kindness for children living in difficult circumstances can share their story using the hashtag EveryoneCounts. But apart from that, how can others participate?
So there are many interagency forums that wherein all the child rights organizations come together, and this is one aspect where, as an NGO, they can connect and participate. As an individual, Youth Ki Awaaz is a very good platform wherein currently people can bring in the stories of resilience. So what we need to hear is that when we need to hear more about how people are able to cope with the scenario rather than only hearing the one side of the story of the kind of negative impact COVID is happening on lives. So these stories will create more a resilience, a culture of positivity, and these stories will also help in creating hope in the minds of young people. So as civil society, the networks, the networking, currently virtual networking, sharing of notes will help in planning for more a coordinated action. At the same time, individuals, whatever stories they have identified through their interactions virtually currently, can put up those stories for the larger sharing as influence as well.
Wonderful. Yukiko, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, and yes, also like that, we really encourage the people to share the story, and then also that use Kiavas is the good open published platform. So we really encourage the people to share the story, and then and that time please use the hashtag EveryoneCounts. And also this is really inspiring, and then to hear the good story, and also because now we really need to work and think out of box. We need to be creative, so we really want some inspiring story and encourage a story so that we can find a solution to address the challenge we are facing. Because this is none of us has experience in the past, so we really need to be creative as much as possible. Thank you.
So when we were talking in the studio at the back, I realized that we also have something else in common. We have Rotary and Peace Fellowships in common. So Vikas, can you share a little bit about your Rotary Peace Fellowship and how that helped you in your work that you're currently doing today?
Well, I received the Rotary World Peace Fellowship, which is a unique scholarship of the Rotary Foundation, and 2006 and 8. I visited the University of Queensland, Brisbane, Australia, where I undertook my master's in international studies in peace and conflict resolution. Fellowship is very unique because it brings in mid-career and above mid-career professionals together into one scholarship, and it helps in practically global knowledge coming into a classroom. So we have got peacekeepers, we have people who have drafted the constitutions, people working in NATO, Interpol. So various organizations, as well as from military, police, civil society, and including teachers and peace builders, all of them are within the same space, and wherein a lot of exchange of ideas have taken place, and there's a bondage that went well beyond what we could imagine. It's a very strong group of more than 1,300 plus peace fellows globally, and this is a potential force to address conflicts in a global scenario. So for me, it was a great learning experience meeting up, and glad to know that Elsa, you and both of you are also recipient of similar fellowship of the Rotary. The service above self is the motto on which Rotary works, and that has been an integral part in which this fellowship is built. It is a scholarship. Some scholarships are for 2 years. Some are for 3 to 5 months with the professional development course. So it is a great opportunity, one, to unwind and unlearn oneself. At the same time, meet up with other people from across the world. It's a multicultural and multidisciplinary platform wherein the learning is much greater and it's more joyful for the future of for building future in a much more peaceful manner. So that's the learning which I gain, and it's an amazing scholarship. One should definitely apply for the same.
Yes, and I did the short-term certificate course at Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok, and for me, it was a great moment to really reevaluate what I was doing at Safecity and use the conflict prevention framework to assess whether we were doing any harm, the concept of do no harm when you're doing good, etc. So it was a great learning experience for me. And I think when we are talking about communities, Rotary and the Rotarians, which amount to 2 million people around the world, is such an amazing community that always gives back. Yukiko, I would love to hear more about your experience with the Rotary.
Yes, okay. Thank you. I also received a scholarship from the Rotary Foundation, which was in 2001. So I had the opportunity to study 1 year in the Australian National University is based in Canberra. So I did my master degrees in Japan, and then also that it was a master degree in law. But at the same time, also I wanted to enhance my knowledge on the international law, and especially international human rights law, and then also including the international refugee law, because already I really wanted to do some contribution to the refugee-related issues in the future. So this scholarship really gave me the opportunity to enhance my knowledge on the refugee-related issues, and then I could study. It's very interesting, the environment, which is also in Australia. And then what I really appreciated, I had so much support from the Rotarians from my home country and hometown in Japan. And they really supported me. Like my dream, I already expressed my motivation letters and saying that I wanted to work for the UN in the future. And then so for that, I really wanted to have this opportunity to work in Australia and to do my master degree. So I had a great support from my hometowns and Rotarians. And then also I had a great support from the Rotarians when I was in also Canberra. And so 1 year, I also was invited to the breakfast meetings and then with the Rotarians. And because they also did a lot of the charity works, not only for the Australian people, but also the worldwide. So I was also part of the meeting. And then also after I came back to the home country, also I continued to be also invited to the also Rotary Club meeting, and which I could share my experience in Australia, which also because I enhanced my knowledge on the refugee issues, but also I also had the opportunity to also communicate with the people who are also committed to make changes in the people's lives. And like the interaction with the Rotarian was great. And also after I finally also could join that UNHCR in 2005. So I have been working with the UNHCR for the past 15 years in 6 different countries so far. And then also when I go to the different country, I also meet with the Rotarians. For example, when I was in Nepal, and I was also invited to come to the breakfast meeting of the Rotarians in the Kathmandu in Nepal, and I had the opportunity to explain what UNHCR Nepal was doing for the refugees. So that was also that the great interactions and relationship with the Rotary also continues. I really appreciate the opportunity. So now I'm also working for the UNHCR, and then also like Rotarians also, I try to make changes of somebody's lives. Thank you.
So, all those interested in learning more about peace and conflict resolution, do check out the Rotary International site. They offer various scholarships for students, but also mid-career professionals. As you can see, all 3 of us did a very different Rotary program, and many of them are fully funded. So at some of the best universities in the world. So do check it out. They're looking for applications for next year. And it opens up a host of avenues, in the development sector, whether UN with other organizations like Save the Children as well, where you can then accelerate good. And peace, the Rotary's mission is peace. Peace is so important, and there's a positive peace index where they measure peace, and that is beneficial to everyone. There's an economic benefit to peace. So do check out the Rotary International page. So my final question to Yukiko is, how are you staying sane during COVID-19, and what is the first thing you're going to do once the travel restrictions are lifted?
Okay, in Delhi, I hope that I would have opportunity to see some of the colleagues face to face. Of course, we continue to have an online meeting, so I could have opportunity to see colleagues' face online, but I still miss the direct interaction with the colleagues. And so when the lockdown is finished, I hope that I would have an opportunity to go back to the office. And then also, we hope that also we could, some continue to have also interaction with our personal concern refugees and asylum seekers in the future when also the situation allow us to do so. Now also, of course, we need to continue to have a social distancing measure, and we need to follow that. But also, still that, and then also we continue to work remotely, and then also having a different modality of the work. We continue to work, but still, I hope I can also have a time to meet with my colleagues directly and to meet with also our personal concerns in the future. Thank you.
Do you have any particular routine to stay healthy and positive?
For me, yes, I also do that yoga in the morning, and then when I wake up, and then also before I go to bed, and also it helps me, and for the physically and mentally, because also it includes the breathing exercise, and then so that is also some of the routine I'm doing.
Thank you. And what about you, Vikas? How are you staying healthy and positive?
I have two kids who are giving me all the energy, and that's one. Another thing, I play music, so that gives me a lot of comfort. I listen to music. I play guitar as well, so the music does give me that sense of venting out. At the same time, I'm very eagerly looking forward to hit the ground, go and meet the communities where we are extending support as an organization. So be part of the change on ground, and that's what is actually eagerly waiting for. At the same time, I do a lot of this webinars and these conversations to reach more people is happening right now. So that's keeping us busy and happy as well.
Wonderful. So, on that note, thank you so much for sharing your morning with us and telling us more about your campaign, Everyone Counts. I know Red Dot Foundation is partnering with you on several different things like tweet chats, maybe an online webinar later next month. And we hope to participate through our communities as well in small ways to make sure that this campaign is successful. So thank you very much for joining us. Wish you a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice
Thank
day.
you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And for everyone else, do join me tomorrow. It's a special day. I started my career in aviation with Jet Airways. And, we have tomorrow's 5th of May. It's the birthday of Jet Airways. Mr. Goel always believed in doing things, which amounted to number 5 for some reason. But I have one ex-colleague, Pinky Epituri, who's joining us. She's the author of Nothing But the Plain Truth. So it's a slightly different session tomorrow. So do join us. Thank you, Yukiko. Thank you, Vikas. Have a nice day, everyone. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.